Hey, what's up, everyone? I wanted to do a quick business video. Someone had asked me um, how I got started. um, not like all the paperwork and stuff, but how I decided to start a business, how I started. So for me, it goes back um, to having trouble really finding work. I couldn't find work. Couldn't get a decent job. Um, my family had a landscape company in Texas, so I would travel up there and work through the season and come back here and kind of struggle to find a little side hustle or whatever to make a little money. And me and my wife, we only had one kid at that time, but I remember having to leave and really just not. It was kind of depressing, you know. I was leaving, I was going up to Texas, West Texas, where it's this desert. I didn't know anyone, you know. I actually stayed in the building, the landscape center that we worked in the back. Converted some of the offices into a bedroom. There was a washing machine. So I lived there, you know, and I'd work there. And I worked 7 days a week, you know, through those seasons. It was about 3 months at a time. And then I'd come home for a month and then go another 3 months and then something like that. I don't remember the exact times I'd go up. Anyways, I started going up there. My wife worked fast food at the time. We had one kid. At some point, we decided to move up. I convinced her to quit her job and go up and manage the office. So she came up. We were able to get a home. We rented up there. She worked in the office. I worked in the field and the greenhouse. And it was a cool little job. We were away from everyone we knew. Um, so we kind of tightened our bond up there. We had a good time. Anyways, long story short, that didn't last forever. The company wasn't doing as well as they wanted it to, so they were going to sell out. So we were kind of one of the last of the employees there. Once they shut the doors down, we moved back to Idaho. And I remember I was collecting unemployment. She never got to that point of unemployment. She was able to get herself a nice little office job here when she got back, and that's her. She still works at that current place, and that's been, dang, like 10. It's been a lot of years ago. Anyways, um, yeah, over 10 years. Anyways, we come back and I can't find work. I finally settled for a fast food job at the fast food restaurant she actually used to work at. And I was in my 30s already, so I was kind of like ashamed a little bit, but at the same time I was like, it's a paycheck. Um, my wife actually lined me up with a job. So that's the only reason I was able to get the job. I could never find work. It was I had trouble with it, you know. Um, had some criminal record history. I had um, what else was it? Criminal history. I had really no education, no experience because I was already in my 30s and I hadn't really had a lot of jobs. I'd worked construction and stuff like that. Anyways, coming back, and then from that job, my wife wound up meeting the boss of a factory through her work, and lined me up with another job. So these two jobs I got were lined up by my wife. I go to the interview. So I wound up quitting the fast food place, going to the warehouse. The warehouse paid me really well. It was a really good job. That had benefits, bonuses, all that stuff. But the downfall was it was a graveyard shift, and I was always tired, always grumpy. Never could get off a graveyard. Worked there for about 3 years, I believe. So I was there for a while. I was able to stack up money. So they would always need overtime workers. I would take the overtime and I would stack some money and put it away, put it away, put it away. And I was able to save enough from that job to open this business. Now, so what happened was there was an available building um, that came available when they asked me because I had inquired about it and it was full. Then I thought, well, okay, you know, whatever. So they hit me up about a week after I inquired, or 2 weeks after, and said, "Hey, the building's available. If you want it, you can take it, but I need you to tell me you're gonna take it now, or we're gonna rent it out." At that time, I hadn't even really told my wife anything too much. I had already had a job. I was steady, balanced, and I said, "All right, I'll take it. I'll take the building." So I jumped in. Didn't even know what I was gonna open. Didn't know what type of store I was gonna open. I just knew I wanted to run my own business. I was tired of working for people, corporate. the type of job I had, warehousing at night in a freezer, it just wasn't going nowhere. And the pay was good, but I was maxed out. So, anyways, long story. This is a long story. I can't shorten it up. I'm sorry. At that point, I realized I started looking at the town I lived in, and I started thinking, what are the needs of this town? Like, what do we don't have that people want? I didn't want to jump into something that people already did. I didn't want to run into food and stuff like that because it was just, if you open a restaurant or anything to do with food, you were going to be there 24/7. Some people like that. You will make good money if you're good at it, but you're always at work. Like, I know a very successful business owner here in Burley, Idaho. She owns a Mexican restaurant, El Caporal, and she's like constantly there. The business is a great business, and I'm sure she's doing well, but she is always there. So, kind of looking at that and other people that run businesses like that, because my original plan was with one of my friends, Droop, my boy Droopy G. We worked with music together. We worked at the warehouse together, and we were talking about doing like some barbecue ribs, and things didn't follow through. So I wound up saying, all right, you know what? I looked at the town. I started talking to people like what we're missing, and I realized that there was no sports store here. There was, and no shoe store in this town that I lived in at this time. So I thought, all right, I'm gonna make a shoe store, like a Foot Locker / Pro Images, mesh them up. At that point, I didn't have no idea how hard it was to get accounts. Like, people, you can't just decide to open a store like that. Mine was mixed with a lot of luck. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna sell fitted hats, like, Pro Image style, and Foot Locker shoes. So I start contacting all these businesses, trying to find their contact info, and I'm not getting no returns. No messages back, nothing. And then I start kind of talking to other business owners that own businesses. Like, dude, there's no way you're not going to get a New Era account, Nike account. Those places just don't open you up. So I'm kind of getting a little stressed at that point because now I got this building. Thinking, do I have to change lanes? How do I do it? And I'm looking online. I find these factories that say they produce New Era hats. That's one thing you got to be careful too, because I didn't know this either, but they're like, oh, these hats come out of China. And I'm thinking, I thought it was legit. I was kind of naive to the fact that the website wasn't a real New Era site. They said they were a distributor. A lot of these big companies don't have distributors they're only direct. So I looked around, I found this company, and I ordered a few hats to get a sample. And when they came in, I realized, holy crap, these are fake. They look like crap. I can't sell these. I just didn't want to have that type of store. So I'm getting a little stressed. I had already put my 2 weeks in at work. And one day I step out. I'm kind of designing my logo, and my phone rings. And I worked graveyards, like I said, and it's probably about 10 a.m. Usually I'm pass out by, if I got home at 7 or 8, I'd go pass out, watch a show and pass out. Well, around 10, I think it was maybe 11 a.m. our time, I get a call from a New York phone number, and I usually turn my ringer off, and I answer the call. Winds up being an exec from New Era and a sales rep from New Era. And they said, hey, just curious, they wanted to hear my story. And the best thing I did was just be honest. I told them, right now I work in a warehouse. I'm tired of my job. I have run businesses before. I've managed businesses. My family has run business when I was a kid. Like, it's just been one of those things that we've been in business our whole lives, and I'm trying to open my own shop. I told them there's nothing like that around here. Just a lot of things that I think a lot of people might have lied and said, oh yeah, I'm a successful businessman. I said, hey man, I work in a warehouse. I worked at Wendy's a few weeks ago or a couple years ago. Basically I was just straight up with them, you know what I mean? And they said, you know what? All right, we're going to go ahead and open you up. Give you an account. We're going to email you, flood you with these emails. And then they said, the first minimum order is a little over $10,000. I'm like, oh yeah, I got that, no problem. I looked at my bank account. I had like $6,000 saved after I had paid this and that. So I went and got a loan for the rest of it. Luckily, I was able to put that order in, and I opened immediately. And then I started kind of like resell. I couldn't get shirts. I couldn't get a lot of stuff, so I just started ordering stuff online. and selling it for what I paid, or trying to coupon. And you know, I wouldn't advise doing it that way, because I was kind of losing money here and there off of that. But the thing that kept me afloat was New Era. Then I opened a shoe account, and I was able to get like Puma and Lugs, all these shoes, which did well in the beginning for us. But what happened later on was a big shoe store opened in town. Um, so we've kind of gotten rid of the shoes, and we're sticking with sports stuff. You know, a lot actually, when that shoe company came into town, a lot of my accounts were dropped, because they don't. A lot of these big companies, if you're in a small area like I live in, um, the population here is probably about 20,000 people. They don't allow more than one store to carry the same product if it's a small area like this, because you know they go with the big dog. So in a way, it was kind of a blessing, because shoes were starting to fall off for me, and I was having trouble with them. And so now I'm able to invest back into hats and sports stuff, which is our bread and butter, which we make our money off of. But that's the story, man. And we have been here going on 10 years now. So actually 9 years in business. They say if you can make it past that 3 year mark, first year is critical. You make it past the first year, you kind of doing okay. If you make it past the third year, they say you're going to do good. If you can make it past 5 years, then you're okay. I wouldn't ever say you're okay, good, comfortable. Never stop pushing and being hungry, because even to this day, you know, there's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? But that's just kind of the story of how we opened it. I designed the paper, my logo, on a napkin at work. It looked like crap. It was scrap paper. Sent it to a guy that used to do my graphics for my music, Philip Baker. I sent it to him. He saw my vision, fixed it for me, sent it to me, and that's how we came with our logo. We just barely redesigned our logo with Aguilar Creative. My another guy I met through music, Abel Delgado. He redid we kind of simplified it, because the logo I had before I really liked it, but it throws a lot of people off. You know, that's the other thing. If you're going to start a business, make sure your logo is simplified, I would say, because with mine, I had all these things that meant something to me. I had like a bunch of stars that signified God, family, kids. Had wings behind the H and S, and hat and soul under, but it didn't fit what we did, like a sports store, you know what I mean? So even at this point, now that we're getting out of shoes, it's still hat and soul. I've kind of converted it to H&S Sports. Had I known or thought of it in the beginning, I would have done something more sports related, you know, like the Red Zone or something like that. You know, I don't know, something sports, you know. But that's the story, man. That's how we got started. It can be done. Save your money. Have a better plan than me. And man, hopefully it works out for you if you're deciding to work on opening your own business. If you have any questions, go ahead and inbox me or send me a comment if you have any other questions, and see if I can answer them. Hopefully that covers it. Have a good day.